let's go back and try to fix this error page now that we saw earlier. When we tried to ping a non-existent page on our application, for example, the slash page right now is not registered at all. So if we try to curl this, then we will receive the same HTML error that we saw earlier with 404 not found. 404 is an HTTP status code reserved for such cases like that. We can have different status codes, different errors have different status codes and different meaning in the HTTP universe. But yeah, for now, we will focus a bit on 404 for pages that are not registered. Rocket has this nice concept of error catchers. So error will come up with some built-in error catchers by default, and it will use them to render such error pages, but we can override this with our own error catchers. So the way to define an error catcher is like this. We just specify a regular Rust function, but we use the attribute up here, this catch attribute. And inside the parentheses, we'll specify the status code that this function should run for. So for all the 404 pages, Rocket will find this function and it will execute it instead of the built-in one. And in our function, we will return a JSON, so no longer an HTML, but a JSON value. We will make use of this JSON macro that we saw also earlier up here. And we will just have a regular string, not found string, simple as that. This should work and it should return our error message in a JSON format, making it easier for the consumers of our application to parse it and based upon that. So the way to register now this catcher in Rocket is by going down here. After mounting our routes, then we will register also the catchers. So we need to specify the base URL first, which is going to be slash, like up here. We also mount the routes for the slash URL. And then we're going to register the catchers. So we have a macro, a nice macro that we can use exactly like we did with routes up there. We can also use the catchers macro, see. And in here we will just pass in the catchers that were defined earlier in our program. So here we just have the not found catcher now. And then that should be enough. If I recompile our application and run it, we will also see probably our catcher now in the metadata that Rocket outputs. There we go, see here. Below routes we also have the registered catchers now, and in this case we have our not found catcher properly registered, which means it should work. If I try to ping now any non-existent URL, there we go. Now we only got this JSON string of not found instead of the HTML error, which is great. Our error catcher is working. Let's also make sure that we have it in the proper content type. So if I use the -i argument, we will see, there we go, we have the right content type here. So our error page is now properly in application JSON. We have the right status code and we have a nice JSON string as a message, making it very easy for the consumers now to properly detect errors and parse them.